Tell me about this, gentlemen, because Pope Francis is quite ill. They could be getting a new pope. Wouldn't that be something to get a guy that's been overseeing Israel and quite aware of the situation in Israel?
Yeah, absolutely, Brandon. And there's a custom in the Catholic Church that they have to have 12 cardinals chosen in preparation in case something happens to the Pope. And lo and behold, the Pope at the moment is in a critical condition. So they are going about this process of going to decide very soon who will be out from those 12 cardinals, who will be the next Pope. And I remember about a year and a half, 2 years ago, reading that out of the 12 that were chosen, the cardinal, that man that you just mentioned, with the name Pizza, he was the leading candidate. And I remember when I saw it thinking, wow, having, and even reading the Israeli newspapers, which says, Hu Mishelanu, he's one of ours. Now, I'm not quite sure if he's Jewish, but he is Catholic and he resides, his jurisdiction is Jerusalem. And I think that is very symbolic and could play some kind of role in prophetic end time events.
Yeah, it could. And I want to get Dr. Lindsted to respond to that. This article is saying that he became the cardinal over that area just right after Hamas. I think that's what we just read. Let me do a control F on that. Hamas, Hamas. He had been a cardinal for just a week when Hamas launched this devastating attack in southern Israel last October. Wow. Okay. Give us your thoughts on this, Dr. Lindsted. I mean, here we were saying the other day, will the next, I don't know, we put out a description of something on our website. Could the next pope be the last pope, as many have talked about, for decades, the quote, last pope? There's been so-called, quote, prophecies that people have had about the last pope and warning about the last pope. And again, I'm not trying to disparage my Catholic friends. I mean, we have problems within our own Protestant denomination, with the Southern Baptist Convention and many of our denominations being apostate and woke and everything else. So far be it from me to criticize the Catholic Church that has its own problems, just like the Protestant Church does. And I'll also just throw in this disclaimer. The one world religion, folks, is going to be made up of a lot of so-called, quote, Christians, a lot of New Age Christians, a lot of socialist Christians, a lot of ecumenical so-called Christians. So again, I'm not picking on my Catholic friends here. And you may have a few very prominent so-called evangelical Christians involved in this one world religion. But many have wondered what role the Vatican will play in the one world religion in the last days, and particularly the Pope. So after all those disclaimers, speak to that, please, Dr. Lindsted.
Yeah. Well, we have some key passages about the false Trinity. And that's in Revelation chapter 13. I say the false Trinity because in the true Trinity, there's God the Father, there's God the Son, there's God the Holy Spirit. And so I would say that Satan himself, the devil, he's called the dragon in Revelation chapter 12, he would correspond to God the Father. Then there's a false Christ. He would correspond to Jesus Christ. And then there's a false prophet. The Holy Spirit always gives credence to the Son of God. The Holy Spirit doesn't really ask for worship for himself. He wants you to worship God the Father. He wants you to worship Jesus Christ. So when we come to the book of Revelation, chapter 12, we see that the dragon, Satan, falls from heaven. He knows his time is short. And when he does, he calls on 2 assistants. And one of those, it says that it's a beast. The first beast comes up out of the sea. I think the sea is the Gentile world power. So I think that this Antichrist is going to be a Jew that comes out of the Gentile nations. But it says later that the dragon gave him power. So he gets his power from Satan. Then you come a little further into chapter 13, and it talks in verse 11, another beast comes. And this beast comes out of the land, out of the earth. And I think that says it's going to be Jewish. So I think the false prophet is going to be a Jew that's associated with Israel. And I think the Antichrist is going to be a Jew that's associated with the powers of the world, the nations of the world, together. And the second beast, he also speaks like a dragon. He sounds just like the devil himself. So what do? Well, they deceive people. They promise one thing, and they deliver another. They're going to promise Israel that they can worship on the Temple Mount, and they're going to stop the worship halfway through. Everything they say somehow is to trick you, to deceive you. That's a key word in Matthew 24 and in the book of Revelation, deceive, deceive, deceive. They talk peace, and then they give destruction. They talk freedom, and then they say, unless you take the mark, you have no freedom to buy, sell, trade, or anything else. So everything they say, it's kind of a double-edged sword. It's always to deceive and trick you. So I think that to have a connection between the Vatican and Israel somehow fits in very well with these end-time Trinity figures that we have mentioned in the book of Revelation, chapter 12 and 13.